What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mike Robinson, and this is another episode of Let's Take a Walk. I got a little tongue tied there. This is another episode of Let's Take a Walk. I hope everybody had an amazing week. Definitely did. Tonight, just like every other night we are on here, we have an amazing, busy, focused guest. We have Miss Shannon Jones. She is a candidate for the Commonwealth Attorney of Newport News, Virginia. She's
Yes.
also a community advocate, very, very committed to community activism and connecting, bridging the gap between government and the people. Tonight, we're going to talk about her candidacy for the Commonwealth Attorney and a few other things. I'm excited to start this. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with Miss Jones, I'm going to give her a moment to kind of reintroduce herself and just give a little background of who she is and some of the things that she has going on. So, with that being said, you have the floor, Miss Jones.
All right. Well, hello everyone. And Mike, thank you so much for having me on. As he said, my name is Shannon Jones. I am running for Commonwealth Attorney in the city of Newport News. And I'm super excited about this race. Just a little bit on my background. I am a graduate of Old Dominion University. I attended Howard University School of Law. Started my legal career as an assistant district attorney in Philadelphia, our sixth largest city in our country. Then came on back to Virginia, got licensed to practice here, and worked in the Newport News Commonwealth Attorney's Office as a prosecutor. And now I am in our city attorney's office as the public safety attorney. So I represent police, fire, codes, HR, and just trying to keep everybody on track, following the law, and like making sure that we're serving the community. I also do a lot of community engagement. So I'm the criminal justice chair for the Newport News NAACP. I am on the board of the Newport News Bar Association, and I'm really proud of a high school mock trial program I run called the STARS program. And we just had our mock trial this week. So I had 15 babies in the courthouse putting on a murder trial. And so that was a lot of fun. So I love that I get to do some of the legal work and the community work, and it all just kind of goes hand in hand.
That is amazing. As we were talking offline, I was telling you, listen, I tip my hat to you. I'll let you and others do that whole political thing, and I will sit back and eat my popcorn and vote here and there where I'm supposed to.
For now, we might pull you in the game. You don't know.
uh, listen. We'll see. We'll see. Okay.
Yes.
Um, where does this whole desire and thirst to enter the realm of law begin for you? Where does your story begin?
Yes. So I actually remember the exact moment that I decided to go to law school. I was not a person who grew up thinking about being a lawyer. I actually graduated from ODU planning on working in DC for like a social justice nonprofit.
Mhm.
So in undergrad, I was the president for the ODU NAACP. And then I was the state college president for the NAACP. And then I worked in the national office for the NAACP. And so
Wow.
I was just like a freedom fighter. I was always cutting up, doing a protest, little young revolutionary. So I really saw myself doing that type of work full time. But through the work that I was doing with the NAACP, I remember I was at a protest in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, and it was a protest for trying to protect our voting rights. And it was April, it was cold, it was raining, and I remember I had my little poncho on, like trying to stay dry,
Right.
and I was not staying dry. So I was miserable out there with my little sign and my poncho. And I remember when the case was over, the lawyers who were argued in front of the Supreme Court like came down the stairs in their suits, looking all good, and then they kind of told us, what happened in the courtroom. And I was just standing there, dripping wet, and I'm like, I want to be in the courtroom.
Wow.
and and there were students there from Howard Law who had worked on the case as well, and so they talked about their experience. And like literally in that moment, I was like, I want to go to law school and I want to go to Howard Law. And so that's exactly what I did.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That is
Thank
amazing.
you.
I mean, you can't be you can't be a regular Joe Schmo and go to law school. So
I mean, you know
I
what
mean,
though? I'm gonna say this. It was not I have a particular view in my mind when I was young about who lawyers were and
mhm,
like their background, their experience, like who can go to law school. And so I never thought about doing it until I kind of had that moment and that passion to do it. But
mhm,
I spend so much time with my high school students exposing them to judges and lawyers because I just want for them to know like I am no one special. My GPA when I was in college was average. I just made connections and I worked really really hard um in the area that I chose to go into, and
mhm,
that was what led me to opportunity. So I encourage our young people to consider going to law school because like when you think about like doctors and lawyers, you think of like people at the top of their class or come from particular families, and it's like, no, I am originally from Pink Hill, North Carolina, a town of like 500 people. So
wow,
if I can
wow,
do it, like anybody can, for sure.
wow. That is listen, that's awesome. That is awesome. So you kind of answered one of the questions that I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask you, has your opinion changed on or your viewpoint or perception of lawyers changed now that you are one?
Yes. So, for sure. In particular, what I would say is my perception on prosecutors has changed so much. So when I started at Howard, I was planning on going into civil rights advocacy. Like that's why I went
Okay.
to law school. I went to Howard for a reason, and that was
Mhm.
kind of my purpose. There were certain people in my life, you know how God puts people in your life to like redirect you. And so
Absolutely.
the judge that I interned for, he was trying to get me to meet some black female prosecutors. And I
Hmm.
straight up was like, nah, like I'm good. Like, nah, like I'm straight. Thank you. But no, like I was not interested at all. And so, and I legit never took the meetings. But then when I went into my second year, there was an opportunity to intern in the Philly DA's office. And the
Hmm.
only reason why I even considered it was because Philly has so many attorneys that were from Howard Law. So they were actively recruiting us to come. And so I was kind of like, I got to talk to some of them and they were talking about some of the progressive stuff and being in the
Hmm.
community and second chances. So I was like, okay, like, I'll give it a shot. And so I ended up getting the internship and then just like being in Philly changed everything. I tried so many cases as a law student, and the thing that really meant a lot to me was I don't think people know this, but like prosecutors have so much discretion.
Hmm.
So I could go into court and say, you know what, I think that officer did an illegal search. I'm going to drop your case.
Wow.
Or I can go in and say, you know what, that was charged as a felony. I think it should be a misdemeanor. I'm going to reduce it.
Hmm.
Or I can say like you are out of pocket and I'm gonna fully prosecute you
Right.
100%. And so
Right.
you get to make those decisions. And I felt that from my particular perspective, I was a woman of color and that I could
Mhm.
relate to so many of the people that I was prosecuting. And I felt like I was having such a powerful and impactful change on my community. And so in that moment, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do because there are so many people in our communities who are targeted by our justice system, neglected by our justice system. Like it's
Absolutely.
it's almost like against us. And so we got to have good people on both sides, and I just kind of knew that prosecution was going to be the way that I wanted to go. So for everyone who thinks that, prosecutors are bad or just locking up, our folks, there's a lot of people out here who are trying to do good work, and honestly, we need more prosecutors from our community. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So is it a challenge? Speaking of being a woman of color, is it a challenge for you? Not so much from the establishment, but from your people, because people we have a tendency to see a person that looks like us in a certain position, and we automatically have certain expectations of them to do certain things or not do certain things or be
Yeah.
a certain way, particularly towards us. So is
Yeah.
that something that you found yourself having to contend with? Oh, come on, sister. No, why you doing me like that? Like that type
Yes.
of thing. And how have you been able to navigate that? Has that been a difficult journey for you in and of itself?
So honestly, it has not been a difficult journey at all. I
Hmm.
find that I get to have real conversations with people from our community because they feel comfortable to like kind of keep it real with me. A lot. So we have an amazing public defender's office, but we need more people of color on both sides in our prosecutor's office and defense in our public defender's office. And so for me, I feel like I have an advantage. We have people who are from the same background as me coming through our court system, and they feel comfortable enough to talk to me about what's going on. And I want to know what's going on. When I see people who have a history of theft, trespass, those types of charges, the first thing in my mind is like, my man, what's going on? like what is happening in your life that you are stealing and trespassing? What's the cause, right? I'm not, yes, I could just prosecute this case. You stole something. I could prove that you stole it and I could find you guilty. But what's happening? Like what is going on that you keep stealing? Because that's what I want to get to. So that you stop coming back here. And I think that when people see individuals who look like themselves, they're more likely to kind of open up and to have those conversations and that dialogue. And so, yes, that has been my experience. People want to talk to me and say like, "Hey, sis, come on." But I can also keep it real. I'm sorry, sir. Like you had how many pounds of drugs on you? Like let's talk about that. Like what are we doing? And so I will say, I remember a case that I had that was one of the more serious juvenile cases. And it was a robbery that involved it was like three juvenile defendants and then one juvenile victim. The juvenile victim was a drug dealer. He was
Hmm.
selling drugs. I think he was selling Xanax and
Hmm.
some other stuff. But he was selling drugs and he got set up to be robbed by three other people. He could not see two of the people because they had on masks, but he did see the person who set him up, who called him and was like, "Yo, come down here. I want to buy from you." So the only person that we knew that was involved with this was the guy who set him up. But it was one of the masked individuals that actually shot him.
Mm.
So I was trying to get the defendant who we know of, who did the setup, to tell us who was in the mask. Because when you do a robbery, everybody is responsible if one of the people involved in the robbery shoots someone.
Right.
And so he of course did not want to give up the person who was in the mask. He didn't want to tell us. And so I remember his mom was calling me and she was just like, "Please don't do this. Like he's a good kid. He wouldn't carry a gun. He would never harm anyone." But
Hmm.
then I'm talking to the other kid's mom, the kid who got shot. I'm talking to his mama, and she's just like, "I almost lost my son."
Right.
Like, and he got shot in his lungs. So he was
Yeah.
it was going to be a lifelong thing. He was
Wow.
never going to be able to play sports again. He was never
Hmm.
going to be able to do the things. So she's like, "He has impacted my son's entire life, so there
Right.
has to be accountability." And so both mamas are calling me,
Right.
and that was a really really tough case because I knew that it wasn't my defendant who actually was the shooter, but I knew someone had to be held accountable. And
Right.
so I was just grateful that I had both sides of that story so that I could communicate with the moms about the decisions that I made. Now, ultimately, I did end up prosecuting that young man, and he did end up having to go to the Department of Juvenile Justice, which is like the state um, juvenile center. But yeah, it's really tough, but it's a benefit to be able to get both sides of a story because you
Right.
want all the information when you're making these types of decisions.
Right. Wow. That's got to be tough because you're dealing with two separate dynamics.
Yes,
You don't want to destroy someone's future, but then again, you have to, like you said, hold her somebody has to be accountable for
exactly.
what's taking place.
Yeah.
Um, So today is a special day. Um, it's
Yes.
it's early voting. So
Yes.
what does today mean for you? Like what was your day like today?
So, oh my gosh. So I woke up really, really early. So kind of what you have to do in preparation for early voting. So we go and we put our signs up at the early voting location, which is City Hall. So I was at City Hall last night at like 10 o'clock putting those signs up because I
Right.
kind of forgot about it. And so got up this morning and we were there bright and early, 8 a.m. and we're just posted outside. So a lot of people are going into City Hall to conduct regular business. They're not going to vote, but we're just talking to everybody who goes in. And so just trying to, do that little one, like maybe 30-second little spiel to tell them,
Mhm.
I hope that you will consider supporting me. And these are the reasons why I think you should. And
Right.
so, the one thing that I will say about today, because this is such a big day, but voter turnout was down. I was
Wow.
ready, y'all. I was ready for y'all to be there bright and early. And y'all did not show up to the party at all.
Now, this is something that I wanted to touch on. Okay, so I volunteered at my local voting booth for the last presidential election. And in addition to the presidential election, there were other people who were running, for other stuff, school board and different mayor, different stuff.
Yes.
And before I volunteered, I voted. So
Hmm.
I'm standing in line to vote, and this young lady says, "Hey, do you know any of the candidates that are running or whatever?" And it just so happened that because I do this podcast, I've had a few of the candidates on the platform, so
Yeah.
I was mildly aware of certain ones, and so I told her what I could and what I knew. So I go up there to vote, and she purposely comes right in the booth next to me, and she's like, "Who did you vote for on this one? Who
Yeah.
did you vote for on that one? Vote for this person, right?" So
Yeah.
basically, she voted for whomever I voted for, with no real clue of their platform, no real clue of their where they stood on certain things or whatever.
Yeah.
So I decided to do my own personal poll. So while I was volunteering, after people would come finish voting, I would ask them, how familiar they were with the candidates that they ended up voting for. And I would say about 85 to 90% of the people really had no idea
Wow.
who they voted for. Some people voted for certain people because they were black. Some people voted for certain people because they were Democrat. Some people voted for people because they may have bumped into them somewhere and they
Yeah.
just remembered the name or whatever. Like these really surface, really rudimentary reasons, and
Yeah.
and it really was interesting to me. And so I pose this question. I say all that to pose this question to you, like, what do you attribute that to? Like, is there enough valuable information available for the candidates, um, for a person to learn who the candidates are and what they're into, and conversely, are the candidates doing enough to be um, recognized in the public? Like, are they doing enough promotional stuff? Are they pounding the pavement, so to speak? Are they
Yeah.
kissing babies and shaking hands enough, or whatever?
Right.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think that, I mean, first and foremost, I think people are frustrated with politics. There
Mm-hmm.
is so much happening so fast right now. It's like you don't even know what to be mad at, what to be focused on. It's just a lot happening right now. So my race is a primary, as are some other races that we have going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just not even like a normal time of year. Like people are not even like it's not even on their radar at all. So that
Right.
is our first challenge. Like we are talking about an odd time of year to be voting. But I
Right.
think that voter education is such a big thing and we need platforms to do it. So I was really grateful that the NAACP put on a forum this week with the candidates for Commonwealth Attorney and the Treasurer, because that's like the first time a lot of people heard us speak.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you know, for me and like my social media, like I've tried to do little videos, like I've tried to post do little posts just kind of indicating what my what my platform is going to be, but it's really hard to reach the masses because our social media pages for myself and my candidate both have less than 1,000 people on each page.
Hmm.
Newport News has 187,000 citizens, so they're not looking at our social media, so we have to really try to reach them. I'm a big person on knocking doors, just getting outside, being in the community, and I think that's really effective. But I'll tell you, I spoke to a woman today who actually just went to the treasurer's office to pay her taxes. But I spoke to her, and
Hmm.
she said that she was very familiar with my opponent. He's been in office since 1990. And
Right.
if I remember, she actually said that she was 73, so I think she said she had gone to school with him as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so she knew him, and she's like, "Yeah, I've been seeing your stuff and like I get your mailers," but she was like, "It was not until I just had this conversation with you and I could hear your voice that I knew that you were sincere."
Mm.
And I was like, "That's real." So like she got my mail. I've sent out two mailers and it has like my whole platform. But I think that we are so like mistrustful of politicians. It's like it sounds good, but like, is this legit?
Right.
And I have the same hesitations because I've gotten mail before and it didn't say someone's political party. And I'm like, oh, this sounds okay. And then it's like once you start asking people, you're like, oh my gosh, this person is this person is that. And so it's just we have a lot of mistrust. And I think that for a lot of people, it's not until you can have those face-to-face conversations that you really are able to make a judgment about who people are.
Right.
So I think that the most important thing that we can do is create spaces for people to come and hear candidates speak. And I
Hmm.
think when we've done school board and city council, there's so many forums. Like I couldn't believe that the first time I got asked for a forum was like 2 days before early voting starting. Because
Mm.
I remember in this last election year, there were forums all over the city. Like everybody was doing forums for school board and city council.
Hmm.
And so I'm just like, this position matters so much. The Commonwealth's attorney is such an important, powerful position. And like we're not even gonna talk about it. Like we gotta like
Right.
we have to have spaces. So I mean I'm grateful to people like you who just give platforms where
Hmm.
we can just get out and talk because to that woman's point, it just allows people to see us kind of authentically and to be able to make assessments about like, I like her. She seems all right, so now I will vote for her. And so, yeah, I just really appreciate that.
So, without being shady or messy, um, what's missing? What's missing? What void do you look to fill? If you have you're fortunate to take this position. Like usually, when I talk to a person, they start a business or they embark on some type of journey like that. Usually, it's because something is missing. So,
Yes.
what would you say is missing that you know?
Yes. So I'm going to start like really simple and then I'm going to get into like the policy a little bit. But
Okay.
I am a community prosecutor. I believe in engaging with people. I want for you to know who I am. I'm going to be everywhere. You're going to see me everywhere. So right now, like a lot of the work that I do in the community, people have my cell phone number. They call me for all kinds of issues, and I don't mind directing people. It's just who I am as a person.
Hmm.
So many of our current elected officials are just out in the community everywhere. We have to have the Commonwealth's attorney in the community. I know that the prosecutors are overworked and, they have a lot on their plate. But for the elected official who runs that office, the people have to know you. They have to know you. They have to trust you. So that's the first thing that I want to change is that standard of like almost a lack of accessibility. Like a lot of my generation do not know the Commonwealth's attorney. A,
Right.
a lot of people in this community do know him because he's been here his whole life and they grew up with him. But my generation did not vote for him and we do not know him. And so that's the first thing that we have to change. But from a policy standpoint, I think that the prosecutor's office prosecutes cases. They are doing that right now. The thing that
Hmm.
they are not doing is focusing on juvenile justice. The violence that we see in our city is primarily young people, is juveniles and young adults.
Hmm.
And what that says is we are not investing enough in our young people. And so in 2023, we saw the worst like murder rates in our city since like the 1990s. Like 2023 was really, really bad. And we all kind of like freaked out and like, what do we need to do? And in 2024, our city declared it the year of the youth. And we had all kinds of youth programs that year. And then what did we see? A crazy drop in gun violence in 2024.
Hmm.
So it's really clear that when we start investing in youth, we got to give them something to do. We got to keep them busy, and we have to be addressing the kids who are in our system. When I was a juvenile prosecutor, I just remember being so frustrated because I didn't have enough options for a particular young person. When I was in Philly, I could look at one kid and say, that kid is dangerous. He is dangerous and we need to get him out the community. I could look
Right.
at another kid and say, yeah, he's a kid with a gun, but he is just he needs some mentorship, some stuff going on at home. He I think that he can have community-based options. Put him in a boxing class, let's get him a mentor. There's things that you can do and it turns kids around. And we have to make those assessments for each kid to figure out what are their specific needs. So if we want to improve our system, we have to focus on juvenile justice. That is the biggest thing. We are missing the mark, and our neighbors, Hampton and Williamsburg, are doing more than we are. And so we have to step that piece up. And then the last thing that I will say is I fervently believe in prevention and rehabilitation.
Hmm.
I think it is too late to get involved at the felony level. We need to be getting people when they got those misdemeanor cases, figuring out again, why are you committing these crimes? What's going on? Is it mental health? Is it substance abuse? Do you need anger management? Do you need a job?
Right.
Like, cause I mean, like that's sometimes it's that simple. You are either unemployed or you have you're unhoused. Like you're
Mhm.
out in the street. When we start addressing those issues, we can do better. And the resources already exist. We already have a ton of community-based organizations who do all this stuff. They are just not plugged into our court system. And so when you have an opportunity for new leadership, you're naturally going to look for new avenues to address issues. And for me, it's there's so many things that we don't do right now that we could be doing. So that's my focus. What we need to be doing is more, getting out in the community more, working with our youth more, focusing on prevention more, focusing on rehabilitation more. Those are the things that I believe are really going to turn our system around.
Wow. Like as I'm listening to you speak about, about these things, I'm like, man, you know, some might think that, that's not your job. Like that's not, that's not you doing too much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely feel you on everything, particularly the youth and the rehabilitation. What do you usually depend? Like, how does your faith play a part in this? Because you have to have I would imagine that you would have to have a level of discernment to be able to distinguish between a kid that has potential, that's just been placed in a bad position and he's forced to navigate that, versus a
Yes.
kid who just that's what he's going to be, or he or she
Yes.
is going to be. How do how do you distinguish between the two?
So the prophet Micah said, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. And
Mm,
that is something that I really carry with me. It is discernment. I have absolutely been in court, and I mean, I will give you an example. I won't say who the kid was, but
mm,
there was a young man that I had in court who during COVID had been involved in a shooting. He shot at someone, he didn't hit them. And because it was COVID, he just got sent home. Like there was no punishment. He was just home, right?
Wow.
And
Hmm.
it was just like just stay at home and like check in. And so it wasn't my case that I prosecuted. I was filling in for someone. And then a year later, he was about to be removed from probation because he went a whole year and he had not reoffended, he had not violated. And so I was in court and I remember looking over at this young man and I could feel it in my spirit. Like, this child was not rehabilitated. Like, he was out shooting during COVID and then just stayed home for a year. And now we think that he's better. Like, we didn't do anything to
Right.
really get him back on track. And I said to the judge, like, Your Honor, I understand, like, he hasn't done anything to violate the court's orders, but I believe that we still need to do more. Let's get him back into the school year. Let's see if there's going to be, let's see what the grades are going to look like, and then we can better make assessments about what to do. And
Hmm.
so we did
Not to,
that.
not to mention it's COVID, so you're limited to what you can do anyway. But go ahead.
Exactly. So the judge did do that, but the school year started. He didn't have any issues, and so the case ended up getting dismissed. His charges were dropped, and he was good. And then he was involved in a shooting, like a very serious shooting. And
Right.
I just remember being like, I remember when I heard his name, and I was like, wait, that name sounds familiar. Like, why do I know that name? So like go to the system, I like type it in, I see it, and I read my notes. And I remember leaving court that day.
Hmm.
This is how God works, because I'm telling you, I left court the day that I was in front of the judge, and I asked him to keep that kid on probation. I left court and I went to Howard Wynn's office, my former boss, my current opponent, and I said, I need more. Like, I need more options because I literally had nothing to ask the judge for. He was not going to send this kid to detention. Why would he go there? He's been out this whole time. I need something to order him to do.
Right.
Like, I need something. And so, from my assessment and my discernment, I knew that that child was not back on track. We hadn't done anything to make
Right.
him be back on track. And
Right.
so that is an example of how our system works. We we have these young people, they'll be 17 years old and it'll be a very similar situation. We dismiss their cases because they complete their probation and then they turn 18 and then they do some other stuff and now they're in the adult system,
Hmm.
and now the consequences are way more serious than what it was when you were a juvenile. And so that is the school to prison pipeline. We have kids come into our juvenile system, we fail to rehabilitate them, they become adults, they reoffend, and then they go to adult prison. And so the question of like, is that my job? Absolutely, because the first responsibility is to keep the community safe. If
Right.
I had access to a juvenile offender who shot at someone, and all we did was, all check in and like talk to a counselor, and that's all good stuff. That's all good stuff. And I'm not criticizing our current system because they
Hmm.
work really, really hard. But my point is we have to really truly rehabilitate. And these people are coming into our juvenile system, they're coming into our adult system, and so we have access to them. If I'm gonna have you come here, right? Instead of me spending, I think the number is like $40,000 a year to incarcerate someone. Why would
Mm.
I spend that when I could spend it on helping you get a job?
Right.
It's like, just make it make sense. And all of these pieces of our justice system are connected. So if you got a police department that's out here in the community focusing on youth, and you got a Commonwealth's office that's focusing on rehabilitation, and then you have a prison system that focuses on truly rehabilitating people while they're inside, and then we have a system that when people get out and they're returning citizens, we're going to help them find employment, we're going to help them find housing. That's going to make our system stronger, because the only reason people reoffend is because they don't have options.
Right.
Do you think that people wake up and are like, I want to be a criminal today? Like, I want to risk it all.
Right.
No, you don't.
Right.
And I see a lot of young men, they have phenomenal entrepreneurial skills. You
Right.
just selling the wrong stuff.
Right.
I get why you selling it. I
Right.
understand. But we need to be taking that and putting opportunities in front of those individuals, and then maybe they will be selling the right stuff.
Hmm.
It's really just that simple to me. And so, it when people say like, oh, that's not our job, It's literally our job as public safety officials to keep the community safe. This is the best way to do it. What good is it for me to prosecute you, send you to jail, you get back out, you reoffend, I prosecute you again, I send you to jail, you get back out, you reoffend. What good
Right.
is that?
Right.
That's it's bad for the person, it's bad for the community. It costs our taxpayers an insane amount of money. And that is what is broken about our system. And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to start talking about solutions to fix it. And so this is our first dialogue about change in a really long time because we haven't had a contested race. So I actually had a conversation with someone who had been arrested and prosecuted multiple times, and that individual said like my experience in the system was not that bad. And I was so as I'm talking to this person, I'm like, how many times were you arrested? And it was like 6 times that this person was arrested, prosecuted. And I said, well, that's the problem. Like, obviously, we didn't help you the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth time.
Right.
That there's something wrong with that. But I think we're like, I don't know. We think that that's normal. It's not
Right.
normal. It is
Right.
not normal. So, changing perspectives, changing how we view the role of the prosecutor, talking about community prosecution. Most people, if you ask them, they don't know a single prosecutor personally. Do you know a prosecutor in your city? We just locking folks up. Do you know any of us? You
I
should
know
know
you.
us.
I know you not.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. And
yeah.
honestly, when you know us, you will call us
Hmm.
because people will give us tidbits and say, now that baby is a problem. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. And they'll tell me the whole story about
Hmm.
someone. Cause it's a lot of communities. I don't know anyone in those communities. So it's like they're gonna give me the whole tea. Thank you,
Hmm.
ma'am, for telling me all of this background because we need to know it. So um when situations happen, sometimes it's not for you to communicate with us about the crime. It's
Hmm.
actually for you to communicate with us about the solution. Like
Right.
you might not want to say nothing. Like I'm not gonna tell you what happened. Like I'm not gonna get into all of that.
Yeah.
But I do know Mike. Let me tell you about Mike. I
Yeah.
grew up with him. And
Right.
that insight can be beneficial sometimes if it's reliable and it gets us closer to finding solutions.
Wow. You said you definitely said a mouthful. Um, being not necessarily being from the area.
Yes.
Um, do you find that to be a disadvantage or an advantage? I mean, because the disadvantage is kind of like you were saying how um sometimes you have to depend on others to kind of give you the lowdown on certain areas or certain individuals. But then on the flip side of that, you have a fresh, unbiased perspective that a person that's been here the whole time may not have. So, what have you found that to has that been a kind of a juggling act for you? Like, what has that experience been like?
Well, I think that being from another community and having prosecuted in another community, it's really given me a perspective on how we could do things differently. If I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't have started in Philly, I would never have come to Newport News and been like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot that we should be doing that we haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful that I went to Howard. I was in law school in DC, that I was in Philly. So those experiences gave me a lot of perspective on the changes that we need to make here in Newport News. And so I'm grateful for that because everybody here has been seeing it the same way for 40 years.
Right.
So it's that's part of the reason why like I exist at all, because I was kind of an outsider who came in and was like, y'all, we can actually do some other things. And so
Mm-hmm.
so that was the benefit. With respect to not being from here, what I have found is, I was like Newport News didn't raise me, but Newport News has embraced me. This is my home. This is where my village is. These are like these are my people. So I feel deeply connected to our community, and I feel that there's a lot of trust for me more so than some people who have lived here their whole lives. It's just about your
Mhm.
character and who you are as a person. And so I haven't had it be a disadvantage for me that I'm not from here. It's just important for you to get to know the communities. And right now we don't prosecute by geographical location.
Mhm.
There's an advantage to doing that. So, like, our city is split up into South Precinct, Central Precinct, and North Precinct. And that's how our police officers are assigned. The logic
Mhm.
behind it is you should stay in the same neighborhoods patrolling because you get to know the full cast of characters, right? You get to know all the citizens, they get to know you. It makes you better at your job. There's a That same logic applies to prosecutors. If you're prosecuting the same communities, then you get to know people. When they pop back up, you're like, I remember you. Like, what's going on? Like, I gave you a break the last time. You back here again. Like, what's going on? And so
Wow.
there's a real benefit to doing that. And so that's how we prosecuted in Philly. I know that there's reasons as to why people don't, and it's sometimes with the scheduling of cases and all those things. That's why I just say be a community prosecutor. Just get out in the community, get to know people, build trust with people, work with kids. All of those things just build relationships, and I think that that's the best way to do the job. We're never going to have a prosecutor's office full of a bunch of people from Newport News. It's always going to be
Mhm.
people from other communities who come here, but we have to get them out into our community.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, when I was in Philly, I did a lot of ride-alongs, and those ride-alongs for me were like transformative. I saw things
Mhm.
that honestly I couldn't believe that I was seeing.
Mhm.
Obviously, Philly has a lot of gun violence, and I remember like the first time that I responded. Not I responded. I was with the police. Like I
Yeah.
didn't respond to it.
Right. 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 Right.
But the first time I was with police officers who responded to a shooting, and we pulled up. So the rule was that if they got out the car, you get out the car. Like you had to stay with them. So
Mhm.
we pulled up, and he jumps out the car, and it's a ton of people outside. They're screaming. There's all this stuff going on. And I think just like instinctually, like I just didn't move, right? Like you're just not
Mhm.
gonna get out of a vehicle and step into that. So
Right.
I just like stayed there, and he like opens the door, and he was like, "Get out. Like what are you doing? You got to come on." So like I get out, and I just remember walking really slowly, and this was the first time in real life I've ever seen someone who had been shot, and this individual had been shot in the head. And so
Wow.
I'm watching all of this happen. He's still on the ground. Like I mean, people are screaming. It's like chaos. And my memory of this, I know that people are screaming, but when I think about it, I actually just hear silence because I just
Mhm.
remember looking at this person who had been shot, and like my brain couldn't even register that this was real. Like this is not
Right.
TV. This is
Right.
not a video. Like this is real life. Like what you're looking at is real. And the scream of that mother when she ran over and she saw the scream is seared in my brain. I will
Mhm.
never unhear the scream of that mom. And like that experience for me was insane. Like to no, like I didn't know anyone who was out there, and that experience was so traumatizing to me. It affected me so much. Like I didn't sleep for nights. I couldn't get the image out of my head, and
Right.
so imagine what that was like for the people who lived in that community and who knew that young man and who knew that mother and who were grieving that loss. I mean, that changed me. So I just think that as prosecutors, like going into the community and having those experiences, like I haven't I haven't lost a family member due to gun violence, but
Mhm.
to be with individuals when they suffer the loss,
Mhm.
that's powerful.
Right.
That's powerful to be there. And my boss always told us that if we were asking somebody to testify in a case that they felt like they were risking their lives to testify for, which usually was a murder, like people don't want to testify against someone who killed someone because they're
Mhm.
afraid that you're going to come back and harm them.
Right.
My boss always said that you should go to their house, you should sit in their living room, you should have that conversation with them. Like you owe it to them to do that in their living room, in their home, in their comfort space.
Mhm.
And that was the philosophy that I learned in Philly. So I want to bring that here, not to traumatize the prosecutors, not to take
Mm,
you in under crazy scenes, but it just builds compassion. It makes the plight of other individuals more relatable, because for a lot of us that's something that we won't personally experience, and it's not the same to watch it on body camera footage or to
right,
talk to somebody about it months later. I remember everything about that situation: sight, sound, smell. I remember the smell of gunpowder. I remember everything about that. And
right,
it really changed how I viewed gun violence and just the reckless nature of it, because that young man he did not live. He was alive on the scene though. He was still alive there, and they did not wait for an ambulance to come, because in Philly the ambulances take so long. So they picked him up. I was staring at him, and they picked him up and they put him in the back of a cop car, and they drove him to Temple Hospital. And I remember the next day, like I called the sergeant and I was just like, "Hey, like I'm just like checking in on like what happened." And he's like, "What are you talking about? What are you asking?" And I was like, "The
mm,
guy, like, did he make it?" He was like, "Oh no, he didn't make it." And
yeah,
it's he was desensitized. Like
right, right,
he sees that so often
right,
that he was just like, "Oh yeah, no." And I was like, "I thought you were gonna call me." And he was like, "Oh no, yeah, he didn't make it." Yeah,
yeah,
but anyways, he was like, "Did you enjoy your ride along?" I was like, "What?"
wow.
I was like, "I need to go to
Right.
therapy because of this ride along."
You know
But
what?
no,
Um, you just that last statement is very interesting. I was going to ask you, um, mental health. Like, is there? I mean, I know you talked about rehabilitation and all that and getting to know the community, but what part does mental health play? Do we are we connecting with mental health advocates to kind of not only not only meet their physical need but their psychological need, because like you said, you know the culture, when you're immersed in it, you
hmm
can become desensitized. Even us that don't necessarily um habitate, we're not in that environment a lot.
yeah,
We see it on the news, we see it on the on social media, we hear about it, and even we are to a certain extent desensitized because you're at work and somebody says, "Hey, did you hear about such and such got killed or whatever?" You're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, that's sad. What are you eating for lunch today?" You know what I'm saying? We
yeah.
just kind of move on to the next thing. So like, what is what role does mental health play in this whole equation?
Yeah, so I'll talk about mental health from the standpoint of prosecutors and law enforcement, and then I'll talk about it from the standpoint of the community.
Hmm.
You have to you have to desensitize to do this work. Like you will
Hmm.
go crazy if you. I mean, honestly, I say if you don't, if you try to hang on to your humanity from the standpoint of looking at photos, body camera footage, autopsies, like you cannot be like a normal human being and look at that. You have to like literally like shut yourself down, and that happens automatically and without even thinking about it. Like the first couple of times you see it, like you're in shock, and then you're just like, I'm gonna see this all the time, so I cannot react this way, and you just become totally numb to it. And I'll say that in the year between Philly and Newport News, when I was studying for the bar, I was doing just regular work. I was a civil rights investigator for the Human Rights Commission. So I was
Hmm.
not, so I went like a little over a year of not doing this work. And so when
Hmm.
I got to Newport News, I remember very distinctly I went into my deputy's office to ask a question, and she opens a binder and she was like, "Look at this." And it was a child who was like mangled. And I was like, what is this? And she was just trying to show me that, like, oh, this guy's a horrible person. But she like just showed me these photos like without warning. And I was like, oh my God. And I wanted to like cry because I had to like go back to being desensitized. So
Hmm.
it's really hard work. And you also, if you care about people, it's so hard when you lose cases. And I put quotes around lose cases because every case doesn't need to be won. So guilties are not always successful outcomes,
Hmm.
but I've had like child sex cases that I was really invested in, and I think one of the first big losses that I had was a child sex case, and my child witness, for whatever reason, just got nervous on the stand and he started lying, and it was really obvious that he was lying, and the judge was like, I cannot convict someone off of the word of a liar. And so like the case went away, and I never really prepared the mom for a not guilty because I was so confident about my case.
Hmm.
And she broke down crying, and then so did I. Like I literally held her in my arms and like we cried together. I felt so bad about the abuse and the trauma that her child had experienced, and like we weren't able to get justice for that family. So it's really hard. We don't talk about mental health a lot in the profession. I mean, you talk about it like theoretically, like everyone take care of your mental health, but I think it's becoming a new thing for people to be invested in therapy and doing that. And I love therapy. I'm gonna tell you, when my appointment comes, I'm always like, I don't got time for this. Like, oh my gosh, I don't even need to talk about nothing. This is
Right.
irritating. But then I
Right.
get on a call and I'm like, girl, let me tell you, let me tell, since you're here, let
Yeah.
me tell you what such and such did last
Right.
week.
Right. Right.
And then I talk for the whole hour because there's always something going on. So that piece is important. In the context of prosecution, mental health, the biggest challenge that I see with the individuals who are coming through our system, mental health is something that is it's a personal choice whether or not you want to get help.
Hmm.
So I see individuals who are committing crimes and they're in our system because of mental health issues, but they don't want help.
Right.
And you can't make someone get mental health treatment. And yeah, you could court order them to go, but if they're not committed, they don't want to participate, it's not gonna work. And
Hmm.
so that's a huge issue. And then I would also just say like there was any area that's struggling right now, it's the mental health professional to staff, to have staff. The CSB is really struggling to see clients. Appointments are months and months out. So we are just having a really hard time with dealing with the mental health piece. And so many individuals that we are dealing with have mental health issues. They are off their meds. I mean, it's a wide range of things that are going on. They have undiagnosed issues.
Right.
It's a lot. And I would personally say, there's a lot of things that might be that are beyond the scope of the prosecutor. Those things very oftentimes are beyond us. Like if someone has a mental health issue and I know that that's the underlying cause, if they don't want the help, and what we find is some people want to remain unhoused. They don't, we can offer them resources for housing and they don't want them. So
Why do you think that is?
I think that for some people, they don't like structure, and there's certain parameters and requirements for, certain types of housing. Um, even when we have port during the winter months, various
Mhm.
churches will house people who need it. We have individuals on the street and we offer for them to go to port and they don't want to go to port. You get searched before you go into port. There's, sometimes like they might have kids, they don't want their kids in port. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a lot of things. If they have drug addiction or those types of issues, they don't want to be in that system. So there's a lot to it, and I recognize that like we can't help everybody,
Right.
right? And so like we try and we offer resources, but some folks, like, you do just have to accept that they don't want the help. And when it comes to like addiction and things like that, it takes a really long time for people to even decide they want to get the help. So I just say you have to give people grace, and you have to make assessments about each individual case. And, is this person a threat to the safety of the community? Are they a threat to themselves? Or are they just unhoused and out in the world and trespassing and doing things, but they're not really harming anybody?
Right.
And that's what we see a lot. So those are really hard.
Wow. That's that list. That's a lot. trying to get through all the questions because I try to be respectful of people's time. Um, how connected are we with community programs? Like I interviewed a young lady about a month ago. Shout out to Miss Shawnee Miller. She has a organization called Parents Against Bullying. She had a situation where some girls jumped on her daughter and ripped her hair out and
Mm.
threw her homework out the window, and they were bullying her, and it was crazy. And she said she actually went to, I guess, the juvenile detention center to meet the girl that actually did this to her daughter. And she tried to reach out to her. Of course, uh, that didn't work out. But you know, how connected are we with organizations like that? Like, how far can you go with those type of organizations, or do you have to keep some sort of professional distance from them and do pretty much everything independently?
No, community partnerships is key, not just with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, but with the court system.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was saying earlier that we're falling behind our neighbors. There are community organizations where, like, the people live in Newport News, but they do the program in Hampton.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me.
Right.
And I understand that there just hasn't kind of been that infrastructure to incorporate them into our court system. And so, I one of the things that I was doing before I started my campaign was talking to our judges and the court just about what does it take for a community program to become a court ordered program? Like, what do you need? Like, how does it need to be vetted? What allows you to trust it so that you would actually order a child to complete that particular program? And
Mm-hmm.
really, there's no set parameter, to be honest with you. And one of the judges I spoke to said, he said, all I got to do is order it. Like, if I trust it, then I order it. And so, one of the first things that I want to do as Commonwealth's attorney is kind of take stock of what our community based options are, in particular for youth, because that's my primary focus to start with. See what options there are, and then see what type of vetting process we might be able to put in place, whether it's through juvenile services, whether it's through the Department of Criminal Justice Services, but have some sort of oversight and vetting so that we can start plugging these organizations in. And I think that it could be a regional option. It could be Hampton, Williamsburg, Newport News, kind of sharing resources.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the fact of the matter is, there is grant funding for all of this stuff. There is so much grant funding for these things, and it helps you when you are connected to the court. It helps you when um, you're connected to an established entity within our system, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's just not there. And again, it's not because you can't. Our neighbors are doing it. We're just not doing it. So, the type of program that you're talking about, I would love to work with an organization like that. And the first thing is just for us to connect with each other and find out a little bit more about what services could be offered. And then I will absolutely, like, collaboration is key for me. So I would absolutely share that with our judges. Is this something you'd be interested in? What do we need to do? And just kind of build a list, because we have like a list of court appointed lawyers. Like, if you need somebody court appointed, we'll give
Mm-hmm.
you we could look to a list. We need a
Right.
list of like court ordered programs for our youth. And so I
Right.
would want to build that.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm definitely gonna try to link you guys up. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, only have a couple more questions. I want you to fill in the blank of this sentence. Entering the race to become the candidate for the Commonwealth's Attorney of Newport News, Virginia, has made me more what?
Has made me more what?
What? Fill in that blank. Has made me more, and why?
I would say that entering this race has made me more inspired, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I am actually really, really blessed that I had the opportunity to run for this office. I've told a lot of people that I thought my opponent was retiring. And I was like shocked when he ran again because I thought he was
Right.
retiring, and I was mad. I was like,
Right.
"Come on, like, jeez." I was mad about it, but like that was 100% God's plan for me because through this experience, I have got to meet so many people in this community, and I did not realize how much people want to have change. I didn't realize how unhappy so many people were and had literally just been waiting for somebody to run. And
Mhm.
so I knew personally that I thought that we could do better and we could do more, and I felt like I was the change that we needed. But through meeting with the community and talking to so many people, in particular, those who actually helped elect my opponent in 1990, hearing them tell me that they're excited about me and they believe in me and that I can do this. I
Mhm.
mean, it gave me a level of confidence and inspiration that I am so grateful for. And more than that, the experiences that I've had. I mean, Sunday, I think I saw you at church on Sunday, and then Sunday
Absolutely.
evening, yeah, Sunday evening, I was at a Hindu temple. Like, in what
Wow.
world would I be in a
Wow.
Hindu temple? Why would
Right.
anyone invite me to that? But they did because I'm running for office.
Right.
And being immersed in Indian culture, we are probably all past that the Hindu temple on Jefferson Ave.
Hmm.
Oh, you have no idea what it looks like on the inside. Oh my gosh. And I
Yeah.
mean, like, I didn't know the language, I didn't know half of what was going on, but I was like in awe of everything that I was seeing. So like running has inspired me. I'm so grateful for this whole process. And yeah, I now hope that I can inspire other people.
That's amazing. Um, what's the most common misconception that people have about you? You found to have people have about you.
The most common misconception is that like I am so innocent and like she wouldn't like lock anybody up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell y'all right now, okay? And I'm gonna look dead in the camera. Don't y'all come in the Newport News cutting up. I'm gonna
Right.
tell you right now, it's not gonna end well for you.
Right.
So I do care a lot about rehabilitation and prevention. But when it comes to violent crime, I do not play. And I want to make that really, really clear. Yes, when we have young people who need second chances and can be redirected, I'm always
Hmm.
going to focus on that. But grown folks out in the streets shooting and cutting up,
Right.
you ain't got to go home, but you gonna get up out of Newport News. And I
Right.
mean, and I mean that wholeheartedly. When it comes to violent crime, I take it very seriously. I go very hard, and I do believe in accountability all day, every day. So yes, I talk about touchy feely subjects, but please don't get it twisted. Like I will 100% lock you up. There's no nice way to say that. That's the most common misconception, and I say that with a smile and with love. I have to keep the community safe. I have to keep the community safe. That's the number one priority over everything else is safety. And so I take that seriously.
Okay. Okay. Um, I have two more questions, literally.
Yes.
Um, you give a lot of yourself. You know, you're a woman of the people, and you clearly have a heart for your community and just for humanity as a whole. Um, that has to be fulfilling, but it also can be. I would imagine that it's very taxing as well.
Yes.
Uh, who pours into you?
The people, my community. I am very supported. I am very supported. My family looks out for me. I will tell you, this has been the most challenging experience of my life. I have never been more tired and I have done some very challenging things.
Mhm.
This is a lot, but I really believe that God gave me certain gifts. And I really want to tell people this. I had moments where I was like, God, did you forget about me? Like
Mm,
where is my opportunity? Where is my space? You gave me gifts. Like you made me a good lawyer, you made me a good speaker, made me a people person. Like where is my space?
Do not
to
have me
do
on
it.
here crying. Do not have me on here misting up.
No, no, don't, because like I feel the same way.
You on
But
my
it's just
street right now. Go ahead. But go ahead.
like
Go ahead.
people look at me and they're like, "You're so brave," and I want for them to know that like 2 years ago, I was sitting somewhere in the dark crying, like, God, like what are we doing with my life? Like I don't understand,
Hmm.
and it's really really hard. And I have had people who have encouraged me, and none of us knew what God's plan was. None of us knew, but they encouraged me, they uplifted me, they did not let me give up. And it was just times where I was just like, this is so hard. It's so hard. And I've been able to push through. And now all of this is my testimony. This entire experience, I say almost daily, that was all God. Something happened 2 hours ago, and I was like, that won't nothing but God. Won't nothing but God. I have never seen God move in my life at this rate ever. I feel it constantly. And there were periods in time when I felt like he was not there. For years, I felt that I was alone. And I'm just like, are we gonna get to my blessings at some point? Like I'm out here. And so it's my faith that keeps me going. I mean, I have people that know when I'm down, they send me Bible verses. God has them send me Bible verses. They direct me. And so I'm just grateful for that. And I've heard people talk like this, right? I've heard people talk about their testimony. I've heard
Hmm.
them talk about God working in their lives. And I think because I've had so many dark moments of feeling alone that it never resonated with me before. And I'm just like, oh yeah, well, God's in your life. Great. you know, like seriously, like when you feel alone, that testament does not resonate with you at all. You're just kind
Hmm.
of like, yeah, but when's my turn?
Right.
And I'm blessed. No matter what happens in this election, I am being obedient. I feel like this is what God's told me to do. I don't know what the outcome is, but he does. And I trust it. Whatever happens, I trust it.
Wow. You said, listen, that right there made this whole interview right here. Like we could have just cut this little piece out right here.
Yeah.
Um, this is my final question for you. This is a question that I ask all my guests. Just take a moment, think about it, and give me the most honest and sincere answer that you could possibly give me. And here's the question. Um, what would have to happen in your life if it hasn't happened already for you to consider your life a success? What does success look like for you specifically?
It is just being able to have the respect of my community. I do feel that I am already successful.
Mm,
It has been I haven't had fancy titles in my career. I'm 40 years old, and I have actually said multiple times I haven't accomplished anything
mm,
because I have felt that I didn't have the titles and the money and the accomplishments of some of the other lawyers that, I went to school with. I went to Howard. It's a lot of people doing big things. And I'm 40 years old. And I'm like, I don't have the job, I don't have the things yet.
mhm,
And it's really been the past maybe 2 years being here in Newport News. It's like I found my village here. Like
mm,
I felt out of place for so long. And I can't even just say Newport News. It's the work that I do right now, and it's who I do it with. It's being with people who understand service and who are committed to the community. You don't feel so weird when you're just like, but what about the community? What about the kids? And so
right.
now that I'm in an environment where I'm around other people who share the values, I feel like I'm thriving. It was like my standards were wrong. Like what I thought was success was different back then. And now
Mhm,
I know that right now what I am doing, I am successful. I had 15 babies put on a mock trial in the courthouse, and I got one of my kids on the news, and she got to talk about what it was like to be in a courtroom, that she wants to be a lawyer now. That's huge. And she's gonna be a lawyer. Like I'll
mhm,
speak that into existence right now. She is going to be a lawyer. And it's
right.
because of this experience. So continuing to make that impact in whatever path God puts me in, I give it to him. I trust him. He got it. He got it. So yeah, that's success for me.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface of everything, but thank you for coming on to the platform. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, for whatever reason, to collaborate with you, to maybe to get you to expound on something that you expressed here on this interview, or for whatever reason, how could they get in touch with you?
So my website is votesj.com, and there's like a little info tab, so you can like fill out a thing, or you can just shoot me an email. The email is info@votesj.com. People hit me up on Messenger, people DM me, so you can find me on social media. Feel free to do that. I check all of that stuff. So whatever is easiest for you, but please don't hesitate to reach out with questions, follow-ups. I would love to talk to anyone who's interested.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you again, and I want to extend to you before I forget, um, an open invitation to come back on the platform whenever you see fit. If there's something that you want to promote or talk about, please
Can
feel
I
free
come
to reach
back
out.
when I get elected?
Absolutely, absolutely,
That would be
absolutely, absolutely.
great.
I'll even bring some confetti or some stuff.
Yes, let's
Um,
plan for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, I thank you, and I wish you much blessings on the election and all the things, other things that's around that, and even the things that
Yes.
you haven't, thought of yet. I wish you much blessings and all of that. Um, the whole community needs somebody who truly cares, who truly has a concern, for the well being of every man, boy, girl, and man, woman, girl,
Yeah.
and boy.
Yes.
Um, my hat goes off to you. Much respect. I thank you again for taking the time to come on. Um, I've had a few candidates for various positions for various positions on here, and I learn a little bit more each time. And so, like, I definitely learned a lot, just sitting down with you today. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you. And everyone, please go vote. Early voting
Absolutely.
starts today. Yes.
You have an amazing evening and an even greater weekend.
Thank
Thank
you so much. Have a great night.
you. You too. All right, guys, there you go. There you have it. Another great interview with another amazing guest. Shout out to Miss Shannon Jones, um, candidate for Commonwealth Attorney of Newport News. As you just heard, she's very passionate about her community and particularly the youth, man. It's so important, man, that we provide examples of an alternative to our youth now, because it seems like a lot of our youth feel like they are stuck. This is the box that I can fit in. I can only be this, or I can only be that. I can only accomplish this much. Um, but there are people out here that have broken out of that box, destroyed that stereotype, become, have transcended any limitation or expectation that the that they try to put on them, particularly our kids of color, it's so important to have an alternative example to say, hey, I can be a lawyer. Look at Shannon. She did it. You know what I'm saying? Look at this person. They did that. So as I encourage you, like if there's something that you feel that God is leading you to do, a vision, a plan, a script, a song, whatever, a degree, a job, whatever it is, walk in it. Not only for yourself, but there are people that are waiting for you to make these certain decisions so that they can reach their destiny. And it might be your children. It might be somebody else's children. It might be one of these young people that Shannon described that are, in the jail system, incarcerated. They need to see you do something positive, to inspire them to do something positive. So I feel like it's all, pretty much interconnected. So with that being said, man, I encourage y'all to step out and walk in your purpose and your plan and God's plan for you. And don't worry about what you don't have. Use what you do, and you'll be amazed how God will allow people to sow into you, invest into you, encourage and speak life into you if you just move and do, walk forward. And I'm not telling you something that I've heard. I'm telling you something that I know. I can't tell you how many times that I uh, considered quitting doing this podcast due to lack of the support, not getting the support that I felt like I should have been getting. But it seems like every time that I would consider doing that, I would run into somebody, or somebody would just text me out of the blue, "Hey, I want to sew into you," or "Hey, I watched the podcast the other night, dope, dope, dope," or "Hey, I was inspired by something that you said," or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And it was like right on the cusp of when I'm about to give up. So, again, I encourage you guys to walk and move forward and envision whatever God has placed within your heart to do. Because it's not only important to you, it's important to me. So with that being said, man, I wish y'all a good night, and we'll see y'all next time. All right? Let's